The Salem witch trials was a reaction from King Philip's War and King William's War. The trials generated great guilt that extended through many generations in the judges' families. The trials began in 1692 in Salem, Massachusetts. They not only affected the victims, but also the prosecutors and their families. 19 people in Salem were hung after they were convicted of witchcraft. Another was pressed to death by stones. Salem accused many people because of their great fear of outsiders and differences. This is known as xenophobia. The judges and their families had a great amount of guilt after the hysteria of the town left. Later generations of the judges even went on to write books about the incident, such as The Scarlet Letter. The Salem witch trials not only had a lasting reaction on the accused witches and their families, but also the families of the judges involved reacted with guilt for many generations.
Why did the Salem witch trials happen?
The English's expansion of the colonies in the New World caused the Native American Indians to lose much land. In a revolt, Indian leader Metacom fought the colonies. The colonists referred to Metacom as King Philip, which led to the name King Philip's War. For a year after, Indians fought and killed 2,000 Europeans, destroyed 17 towns, and damaged 52 others. The English got offensive and killed 4,000 Indians and captured men, women, and children to sell them into slavery. 12 years later, King William's War, also known as the 9 Years' War, began. It was a war between England and France that was fought in the American colonies over the fur trade. The French persuaded the Indians to attack the English colonies, causing much destruction and death. The wars impacted the colonies to fear people who are different. This is known as xenophobia.
What happened at the Salem witch trials?
4 girls in Salem Village exhibited symptoms of illness and unusual behavior and were later accused of witchcraft. Hysteria sparked from this accusation led to the conviction of over 200 men and women. The belief of witchcraft may have been brought up because of Cotton Mather's recent book, Memorable Providences. The book is about an Irish washerwoman in Boston suspected of witchcraft. The symptoms of the washerwoman mirror those of the girls. The belief of witchcraft created considerable hysteria in Salem. The xenophobia led the town to persecute suspected witches. In all, 19 of the accused were executed, 1 man was pressed to death, and at least 4 died in prison.
What court held the proceedings?
The trials were held by the Court of Oyer and Terminer, a special court organized by Governor Phipps in May 27th through October 29th of 1692. It exclusively saw over the witch trials. The chief magistrate was Lieutenant Governor William Stoughton from Dorchester. Only 5 judges had to be present at each trial. On November 25th, the Superior Court of Judicature replaced the Court of Oyer and Terminer. The court consisted of Stoughton, Danforth, Richards, Sewell, and Winthrop.
Did anyone in the court of Oyer and Terminer agree with the trials?
William Stoughton was a very religious man and had little legal training. Still, he was appointed Chief Justice. He allowed the court to stray from the required courtroom procedures. The allowance made the condemning of witches easy. He was upset when the conclusion of the Salem witch trials were announced. After the trials, his political name was not damaged. In fact, Stoughton became governor of Massachusetts and died soon after.
How were the judges affected?
All of the judges were affected in different ways. Not much is known about Jonathan Corwin's feelings about the witch trials because he talked very little during the proceedings. However, Cotton Mather's maid accused Corwin's mother-in-law of being a witch. Jonathan helped to never make this a formal accusation. He realized the severity of the trials when it came into his own family. After the trials, all of his children wanted to move very far away from Salem, like Bartholomew Corwin, who moved to New Jersey. Another son, George Corwin, was the high sheriff during the trials, and oversaw many of the executions. One in particular was Giles Corey, a man pressed to death by stones over a period of 3 days. This trial may have had the greatest impact on George, who became a minister following the trials. At the age of 30, he passed away due to a heart attack. His family buried him under his house, in fear of his body being vandalized. He was later quietly moved to the Corwin family vault. Many people spoke badly about George, unlike the way they spoke about his father. Bartholomew Gedney saw a bad side in his friend John Alden after seeing him torture the girls on trial. Gedney told Alden he had always looked upon him to be an honest man, but now he did see cause to alter his judgment. Nathaniel Saltonstall is well known for his resignation from the court of Oyer and Terminer after the first hanging. He wrote in a letter to his friend that he was very dissatisfied with the proceedings of it, and he would not publicly criticize the court. It is believed he left for his opposition to the trials, and he is considered to be one of the most respectable men of his time. Samuel Sewall was the only magistrate to publicly apologize for part in the trials. He even called for a day to be set aside for penance, fasting, and prayer. His feelings of the injustice performed during the trials influenced him later in life. For example, his publication of a pamphlet against the cruelty of slavery. His brother Stephen was the clerk of the court. Stephen also showed signs of guilt due to his part in the trials. Stephen allowed one of the afflicted children to stay with him at his house, and soon after her symptoms lessened. After the trials, he wrote books concerning issues about people with differences such as race and gender. Thomas Danforth refused to help in the Salem witch trials. Danforth received 16,000 acres of land and used the land to help those accused. Attorney General Thomas Newton resigned a few months after the trials began. Anthony Checkley replaced Newton. According to the Salem Witch Museum, Governor Phipps reprieved 3 persons condemned in January 1693 after Checkley informed him that there was the same reason to clear the 3 condemned as the rest, according to his judgment. Phipps' action so enraged Chief Justice William Stoughton that he temporarily refused to participate in the trials. The Hawthorne family was most affected by the trials.
What happened to the Hathorne family?
John Hathorne was a magistrate on the court of Oyer and Terminer. He conducted preliminary examinations with Jonathan Corwin. He issued many warrants for the arrest of accused witches. According to a historian at the Corwin house, Corwin spoke very little at these examinations. Hathorne spoke the most and was noticed to be very calm while questioning potential witches. John Hathorne's wrongdoings caused not only him to feel guilty, but his descendants also felt this guilt. Hathorne's great-great-grandson, Nathaniel, added a W to his last name because of his affliction with the trials. Nathaniel is a well-known writer who included a theme of secret guilt in his writings. One of his more famous books, The Scarlet Letter, shared this theme of shame that Nathaniel felt. He also mentioned in the introduction that the Hawthorne family would never be disgraced by a single unworthy member. Nathaniel's daughter Rose led a spiritual life, perhaps in repentance for John's involvement in the trials, and went on to join the Dominican order. Nathaniel's son, Julian Hawthorne, was arrested in 1914 for low swindling. The guilt in the Hathorne family lingered for many generations.